Good morning, Chair Oshiro and the rest of the committee. My name is Don Yabusaki. I'm the cable administrator for the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. We oppose this bill as written. While we are not opposed to the support of the purchase of laptops for students in the schools, we are concerned with the this bill in terms of the way that they're looking at funding. A lot of people don't realize that the cable division actually has some fairly big broadband responsibilities. Among these are we actually provide funding for infrastructure and other broadband projects to other departments, along with providing in the past matching funds for broadband projects such as the University of Hawaii's BTOP grant, which is connecting all the schools and libraries. We also represent the state in proceedings before the Federal Communications Commission to ensure that we have a fair chance at any federal funds that become available in the area of the broadband and telecommunications area. These areas that we currently participate in and provide funding and other support to, we have a concern that the way the bill is worded, it could pretty much cripple these efforts. And we feel that the broadband initiative itself lays down the groundwork for the connectivity and whatnot that will be required by students with laptop computers. I don't intend to read all the testimony, I just wanted to summarize. In closing, we just wanted to make sure that it was understood what our role was in terms of furthering the governor's broadband initiative to bring ubiquitous coverage statewide. And I will be available to answer questions later on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yabusaki. Next we have Community Alliance on Prisons.
Good morning, Chair Oshiro and members of the committee. Kat Brady testifying on behalf of Community Alliance on Prisons, always mindful that we have 6,000 people incarcerated, 1,800 of whom are serving their sentences thousands of miles from their loved ones, from their homes, and in most cases from their ancestral lands. We're in strong opposition to Section 2 of this bill. Who could be against laptops for education? But Section 2 is all about community access media. We are deeply troubled by this. The government is actually entrusted to protect the public interest. Our airwaves are a public trust, and we trust that you are going to protect them. Last session, I was stunned when a member in this very committee asked, what is the public benefit of democracy? Well, the public benefit is the public voice. That is really important. What we have is a representative democracy. You represent the people. You represent the voice of the people you represent. Public access media is direct democracy. Public access media covers things that are not in the mainstream press. It covers all sectors of our community and is absolutely crucial to democracy. And given the current state of our society, it seems like corporations are taking over more and more of the public voice and trying to be people. This bill is evidence of that, and we find it very disturbing. Genuine democracy requires an informed public. It requires that the media reflect the cultural diversity and local issues of our community. Genuine democracy is based on broad public participation, and that is what is not made possible by political representation, but through direct democracy. Community media is growing across all our islands. More and more people are being engaged, being informed. These are the kinds of people who vote you into office. You want people who actually understand what's going on. This bill would limit PEG access. The PEGs, public education government, they receive their funding because cable operators they pay a fee to use our public airwaves that you are entrusted to protect. The funds for broadband initiatives should not come from cable subscribers. They're public. They come from, the use of public airwaves. Noam Chomsky said it best when he said, where there is even a pretense of democracy, communications is at its heart. We ask you to please delete Section 2 of this bill. It has a chilling effect on democracy. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Thank you, Ms. Brady. Next we have ADA, Americans for Democratic Action. Taking testimony in opposition. Next we have Jay April, President and CEO of ACACU, Maui Community Television.
Good morning, Chairman Oshiro, members of the committee. I'm president of ACACU, Maui Community Television on Maui, Molokai, and Lanai. And I found curious, the title of this bill is relating to broadband. We all know how important broadband is for Hawaii. Currently, we're still, I think, in the mid-40s when it comes to broadband speed amongst all the states. The United States has slipped down to around 29 or 30. There are a lot of reasons for that. But the PEG access centers, the community anchor institutions that they are actually centers for broadband development. So if there's one place you wouldn't want to take the money from, it's the PEG centers. And if you look at my testimony, you'll see some of the reasons why. ACACU in particular is one of the first, well, was the first media organization in Hawaii to stream video in the late 90s. In 2007, I think many of you watched the trial of the Super Ferry trial from the court in Maui because we sent a 17-year-old kid down there with a laptop and a modem so people could watch that proceeding live all around the state. We're innovators in broadband. We received a $150,000 grant through the BTOP program to train somewhere around anywhere from 100 to 300 kids to adopt broadband and use broadband in more rural areas of Hawaii, particularly Maui County, Molokai and Lanai and Hana and places like that. Places where broadband not only isn't very robust, but it isn't even broadband. I mean, the internet speeds out in the rural areas are actually pretty embarrassing. I brought with me an example of that. Nobody's using laptops anymore. I mean, some of us are, of course, because they're powerful, but kids aren't really using laptops. They're using iPods. They're using iPhones. This is an iPod. It has 64 gigabits of RAM. If I press a button, I can turn on the camera function. The iPod is in a housing with a $200 microphone. This turns an iPod into a news gathering device. What we're teaching our kids to do is to shoot 2-minute messages, not much longer because the wireless broadband that we have in Hawaii can't handle the kind of upload speeds that we would really like. So you do a 2-minute news story, you edit it in the iPod, press a button, it goes to our MauiTube site in our central offices, and the editor or the curator says, okay, this goes out on the channel, or this goes to Facebook, or this goes to Twitter, or this goes to your network. We're designing networks for nonprofits. This is all being run by kids. And this is open to kids anywhere from the age from 10 to 25 years old. Goes far beyond the classroom. And we've developed a curricula that we will be exporting to UH Maui, to the DOE, and to anybody that wants it. This is a very progressive, very far-reaching program. And we can do it because we can innovate. We're a small little organization, we're a small NGO that has a little bit of federal money, and of course the little bit of access money that we get, and we can use it to innovate in programs like this. I mean, it's not likely that this can happen in the current educational system in Hawaii, in the public schools. It's not likely that that kind of innovation can occur, and there are a number of reasons for that. There are thousands of really dedicated teachers in our public schools. And we want those teachers down in our shop so we can teach them this technology so they can bring it back to the schools. So to limit or cap PEG fees in the interest of promoting broadband in Hawaii is like cutting your nose off to spite your face. So I would submit that that this bill it's a great idea to bring laptops to schools, don't get me wrong, but this is not the way to do it. And if you look at the amount of money that goes to state education from the PEGs right now, you will see that. For instance, Olelo, I think 25% of Olelo's franchise fee already goes to state education. 25% of the franchise fees come to Akaku, go to state education. The money above Olelo's cap, a lot of that goes to state education. 1% of the franchise fee that goes to public television was originally set aside for Hawaii Public Television, the Hawaii Broadcasting Authority, which was affiliated with the university. So an argument can be made that that goes to education. And you all know what the education budget is for the state. So the amount of money that comes to the PEGs compared to the amount of money that goes to state education, the place to find that money for laptops is not from the PEGs. And if you look at the franchise fee that's collected, it's not even the maximum allowed by federal law. The state does not collect 5% of cable franchise fee in Hawaii. It collects less than that. So I'd like to submit that it's a great goal to get laptops to schools, these devices to schools, iPads, maybe not iPhones, but it's a great technology. We're doing a great job. We're totally behind the governor's initiative to bring broadband to fast, ubiquitous, affordable broadband to Hawaii. And we're the places where we can innovate. We're already in place. We're already training people to do it. So I urge you not to pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nicholas. Next we have Hawaii Fathers for Justice, Scott Long, testimony in opposition. Annette Cruz, President, Sale Maili Hawaiian Civic Club, testimony in opposition. Renee Mancha,
Aloha chairs, Oshiro and Yamashita, honorable members of the House of Representatives. I'm Reen Mancha, representing the recycling industry, and today I'm testifying as an individual. And I'm asking you to oppose House Bill 2874 because it would negatively impact the funding for Olelo Community Media. And for the past 9 years, I have been working with most of you promoting diverting waste from landfills, recycling, preserving our natural resources. And for the past 6 years, Olelo has been actively raising the awareness, public awareness of how to save our environment. People want to recycle, and through Olelo's efforts, I have seen drastic changes in our community's attitude. More agencies want, and individuals are striving to be leaders and role models as environmental stewards. I've seen most of you working in the trenches to help your schools and community organizations to curb illegal dumping and organizing community cleanup events. And we thank you for that, your leadership. So Olelo enlightens the public and represents the everyday heroes, regular citizens who love their community and want only the best and always finding ways to make things better. Please do not reduce the necessary funding for Olelo's operations and oppose House Bill 2874. Mahalo nui loa.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Tess Cartwright. Testimony in opposition. Adam Hensley. How do we do this? Many of these are email testimonies. And many of them are probably not present this morning. So to accommodate those who are here, the time off to be here, why don't we, I'm going to ask who wants to testify on this bill? Okay? One, two, okay, let's take our turn. Let's take turns. One of you go first, and we'll take turns. This is about 6 or 7 of us. Go, come. We'll do that. What's your name, please?
Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha kākou. To all of you, I say aloha. My name, I am Kealoha O'Iopu. And the translation of that is proclaim the love breath of the Creator. That's my name. I come here with a message of aloha and ho'oponopono from Io himself, the Creator of all. I want you to understand and to listen. If you have an ear to hear, listen to what the Spirit is saying. House Bill 2874 is pilau. It is hevel in His sight. Do not steal what is not yours. Do not use the laws of man to manipulate what is given to continue free speech. PEG does that. It helps free speech. The future is at stake for free speech, and our generations are at stake for free speech. Olelo is to receive all the funds allocated by the giver. Do not steal as you have done in the past days gone by. My adversary wants you to destroy Olelo with the spoken word. The Kepalo, the devil, he does not want you to let the spoken word come forth. He wants you to steal, kill, and destroy the future of Olelo. I do not believe we should do that. The truth is, we have the right as individuals to make decisions, to choose what is right and wrong. You have monies in other places, monies that can be allocated for other things. Do not steal what the people of Hawaii are paying through the cable program. Do not. Do not steal what is not yours. The government is not paying for it. It's the people who are paying for it. Cable subscribers, I tell you the truth, in truth, and we do stand for truth, don't we? That Io, the Creator of all, is watching all of us. There is coming a time when we will be able to make our stand once again. I ask you, how would you like to have such a bill brought forward with the legislature and the names of the legislatures placed instead of Olelo on a bill like this? And all of a sudden, your finances, your wages, your expenditures are crimped so that you cannot keep up with the times that come. I think it would be a disaster for all of you, just like it would be a disaster for Olelo to be penalized by not having the funds allocated to them that they so rightly deserve. Now keep in mind, we're talking about the future of your families, your children, and your children's children, to be able to have the benefits that Olelo provides in order to bring forth and stay up to date with all of the equipment that is afforded us. I, myself, would like you to put this down, to shut down this Bill 2874, and to recreate the newness of Aloha by giving ha'awi. The Hawaiians say ha'awi, give. Ha'awi, to share. Ha'awi, let go. Don't take, but let go. Shut down this bill. And I conclude now by saying, hear, if you have an ear to hear the message of Io. Ua mau ke eo ka aina I ka pono o Yesu Cristo. No ke koho. The choice is yours. You choose. Thank you. Mahalo. Mahalo.
Okay, next please. Anyone else here testify? Yes, please come forward. Please come forward.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Fleener. I live part-time on the Big Island, part-time here, and this gentleman, he couldn't have said it any better. I mean, even though that many of you guys weren't even paying attention, I hate to say that, but looking at you guys, and you know, I saw people flipping through their papers and not showing this gentleman the respect that he deserves, which I felt like that this man has the freedom of speech. And I'm glad that people out there watching this on television heard this gentleman's talk, because obviously most of you guys were not, except for this gentleman here was looking at him. Everybody else was busy looking through papers and probably got their own mind made up. Well, I believe in the freedom of speech, and that's what I'm here for, the freedom of speech. You know, we got to keep the politicians honest, as you know. I mean, how many politicians do you know that have told a lie? And if you say none, you're probably lying. So, Olelo is the voice of the people. It's freedom of speech. A lot of times when people speak their mind, they make a lot of people angry. Matter of fact, in some countries, the government will take them out and shoot them, kill them, silence them. At least here we can speak our minds and tell what's going on. I know a lot of people have financial stakes, and that's what they're really going with, is like how it's going to benefit them financially. Whenever in reality, there might be something that's just completely wrong, and people need to speak up. For instance, the rail. I was originally like, oh yeah, the rail sounds like such a good idea and everything, but then after watching Olelo and finding out the other viewpoints and everything, maybe there's an alternative to the rail. I myself, I take the bus, I ride my bicycle. I'm against big oil companies jacking up the price of gas. And that's one thing that's good about Olelo, is the fact that you have the freedom of speech. I could say, you know, let's get on our bicycles, let's ride the bus, let's try to keep from supporting the Middle East, these people that are really hate us. I mean, they're the ones that are killing Americans. And let's try to help each other, and let's make our community better by having the freedom of speech, supporting supporting and opposing issues. But one thing is Olelo allows freedom of speech, and I tell you, they are such a blessing. And again, there's no way that I can say what this gentleman behind me has just said. And I just want to say I completely oppose House Bill 2874, and I'm just in all support of Olelo Television and the freedom of speech. And I will say one thing: God bless America, and Jesus loves you. Thank God that we don't live in a country where you guys are going to haul me out and shoot me just because I said that Jesus loves you. All right? Have a nice day. Aloha.
Aloha. Okay, thank you, Mr. Okay, next, please.
Chair Oshiro, members of the Finance Committee, I'm here for Leslie Wilcox, President and CEO of PBS Hawaii. My name is Roberta Wong Murray, and I'm Vice President of Programming and Communications. As Hawaii's only statewide non-commercial educational broadcaster, we support
Just a minute. I want to make sure, members, that we do have your testimony. Make sure. Members, this testimony will be here. What's your
Thank you, Chair Oshiro. As Hawaii's only statewide non-commercial educational broadcaster, we support strategic efforts to equip students with 21st century skills. However, we are concerned that HB 2874 would harm PBS Hawaii in our successful work of equipping students with 21st century skills. We receive 1% of the fee proceeds, and this has proved critical to us in weathering the recent recession and the continuing uneven economy. Moreover, it has helped us create and cover the costs of a rapidly growing, innovative educational program, Hiki No, the nation's first statewide student news network. In 1 year, the number of participating schools in Hiki No has jumped from 54 to 73. All middle and high schools in Hawaii may join at no cost to the schools. Students learn real-world, 21st century workforce skills and habits of mind, and at the same time, they are sharing responsible stories about their school communities with a statewide television audience and the World Wide Web. On this very day in Washington, D.C., PBS Hawaii and Hiki No, through Leslie Wilcox and our VP of Creative Services and Executive Producer for Hiki No, Robert Pennybacker, have been awarded the top national award for innovation at a public media summit. That's why Leslie is not here today to deliver this testimony in person. We ask that you consider the effect that the current draft of HB 2874 is likely to have in limiting educational services at PBS Hawaii, including this effective digital media program, which reaches deeply into schools across the state. Thank you for listening, and mahalo for seeking and vetting ways to strengthen student learning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wong. Next on House Bill 2874, please come forward.
Aloha. James Sparky Rodriguez. I submitted my testimony. I'm talking against the bill. Yes, and but just share a little bit. I'm a little concerned and confused with this bill. The support of laptops to students, very, very good. I mean, I totally support that. So I have two hats on today: as a parent, as a community member involved in the community, and as an advocate of community access, because I'm also working with Olelo in Waianae as well as Noepahu. So as a parent, I've done some research on getting laptops to all our kids in schools. And some of the school districts that supported that have discontinued it because it didn't improve school scores. It improved communication. But one of the problems in my efforts working with Arnold La'anui with FBI is that sexting and bullying is one of the additional outcomes. So the GLOs that come out of schools, general learning outcomes, ethical use of media and technology is one of the things that's a gap. And I'm finding in my discussions with teachers, administrators, students, there's not enough infrastructure yet. The IT people are concerned if they have 1,000 computers or 2,000 computers in a school to be responsible for software, maintenance, upkeep, and at the end, who has ownership? How long does it end before it's obsolete? So there's a lot of different issues that go along with laptops into communities. I'm finding that as a community, if we use the concept of it takes a community to raise a child, if the community buys into this and we support it, then the uncles, aunties, grandparents, neighbors are going to be watching and be responsible for it. The funding aspect, on the other end, it takes away from community access. And I would like to see a community access center in every school complex, because the benefits that I've experienced, and you guys have experienced this as well, because over the last 10 years, I've brought students to the opening of the legislature, not to observe, but to participate and to experience what it's like to interview legislators, to find out who they are, and not to be afraid of leadership and to participate in the democratic process. But it doesn't help if I'm just watching it on TV or a monitor or on a screen. It's important for us to physically participate. So apathy with voting, apathy with the freedom of speech it's rampant out there. And one of the key things to get our communities involved is what community access television offers: hands-on experience, mentoring, an opportunity to experience having a voice. Most of us are afraid of being in front of a camera, on the air, asked questions, and having to remember our own name in some cases to communicate what we're thinking, what we're feeling. This bill doesn't address any of it. In fact, it divides and separates us. Because I like the idea of education and laptops for our kids. I like the idea of participating in the democratic process. I don't like the idea that it makes one group strong at the expense of another. What can we do? Why can't these people get together with our communities to see what we can do collectively to build a stronger community and make it so that we're partners rather than adversaries? Thank you.
Very much, Mr. Cruz. Okay, next, please come forward. Please come forward.
I didn't turn in my testimony.
That's okay, please.
Free speech. My name is Ron Miyasato, and I'm speaking as my personal opinion, but I'm a member of a couple of non-profit mental health agencies. But I think this bill is wrong because it's against our democracy and our democratic way of life. Because what Olelo represents is a voice for those who can't speak out on regular commercial televisions. It's a voice for the poor, it's a voice for the nonprofits, and when you suppress those voices, you're cutting away a lot of the people who are part of our democratic process. I've worked with nonprofit groups. One group, in fact, it's called, he has his own computer repair shop, and it's called the Power of One. And he collects all these old computers and repairs it, and he gives it away to homeless children so they at least can get into working with computers. So if you cap the revenues for Olelo, you'll be cutting off his means of trying to get the word out to people who can contribute to the school systems themselves and get the computers that people who are in need can get them too. Also, governments lie, and I found out when I was going to the university that that's where I learned to think for myself instead of believing whatever the governments always tell us. That's how we got into the wars in Vietnam. That's how we got into the wars in Iraq. So without public access, we can't get the full truth because it's all controlled by big corporations and money. And in fact, now it also helps nonprofit agencies where we can get the word out to get help to support those things that you folks took away from our safety nets. And also, what you should do, if you want to help children get educated, what you should do is find the number of homeless children are increasing. You should find them shelter because they can't learn if they're out on the road having to find food, trying to get food. Why don't you support their basic needs first, and then learning can take place instead of taking away all this from the nonprofit agencies who really care about those who don't have voices and cannot speak for themselves. So for democracy to grow, I think we should just kill this bill. Thank you.
Sato. Okay, anyone else here with this amendment?
Aloha, Chair Oshiro and members of the committee. I'm still waiting anxiously to hear the proponents of this bill come forward and testify. Perhaps at some point somebody will show up. That's the benefit of free speech. I was listening to HPR this morning, or maybe an NPR, talking about how a video in Syria is capturing world attention from the bombing and the death and destruction going on in that country. A video. We are transforming, the entire world is transforming from one of paper to one of paperless and to video. Video is an exciting field, and the Olelo and other public television, community television on the neighbor islands are at the cutting edge of the change. I've seen a 7-year-old with a camera and a 10-year-old getting an award with a camera. Video is the wave of the future, and it is important for this body to be funding that. Since you're allowed a greater cut, you're allowed to collect more on the public use of airwaves, then you're allowed to collect more than you are collecting. You should increase the amount that you collect and fund Olelo to a greater extent, because they are the centers of innovation that are helping the youth for an exciting new future world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruce. Okay, now, anyone else here?
Aloha, Chair Oshiro, Finance Committee members. I know many of you are weary, and you've heard this really before, and I don't think it's new for you. I think we're a little weary too of coming out and saying the same thing all the time. Last year there was a bill to have Olelo audited. That bill passed. We got Act 19. Olelo had a performance audit, came out beautifully. Problem solved? No. There are bills introduced again this year, seemingly just to cause problems. I don't know that that's the case, but I just wanted to speak honestly that that's what it seems like. My name is Meredith Nichols, and although I'm submitting testimony as a private citizen today, for the purposes of full disclosure, I want to let you know that I'm also the Director of Community Development at Olelo Community Media, and I've been lucky enough to be employed there since 1999. As a resident of a rural community on Oahu, I can testify to the frequently uneven resources available to those communities outside of central Honolulu. My hometown of Wahiawa is beautiful. Our people are hardworking, and we love our community. We don't have that much. One thing we do have, thanks to a partnership between Olelo and the DOE's Lelehua High School, is a community media center where Wahiawa folks, students through Kupuna, can learn how to make videos and share their stories. Before there was a media center in Wahiawa, our unique stories were not on television. The Kunia Orchid Show, the Pineapple Festival, the Central Oahu Band Competition, Iliahi's May Day program, Wahiawa Kupuna Oral Histories, and so many others are now being shared via television on Olelo. In fact, in less than 3 years, over 257 hours of programming, that's nearly 500 shows from Wahiawa and the North Shore, and these are public shows, educational shows, government shows in the forms of neighborhood board meetings and community forums. They're all on there now. I have 3 sons at Iliahi Elementary School, and thanks to Olelo's presence in Wahiawa, my 5th grader has already had the opportunity, along with his classmates, to learn more about video production. He and his classmates, in fact, are hard at work right now, completing their video submission for Olelo's annual Youth Exchange competition. I hope that the resource is still there when my 2nd grader and my 3rd grader are old enough to reach that program where they can make their own videos for that competition. So you're wondering, why is any of this information relevant to a bill on broadband? And I agree it shouldn't be. Broadband is an important initiative that should be addressed, but it should not be connected with funds derived from cable subscribers. I know that the only way Olelo is able to operate centers in communities like mine, Wahiawa, Kahuku, Waianae, Waipahu, Kaneohe, Palolo, and on every single neighbor island, is through the PEG access fees that we receive from Oceanic Time Warner. This company enjoys millions and millions and millions of dollars in profit from our community members who are subscribers. These are not taxpayer dollars. Placing a permanent cap on these funds, which are collected for this intended purpose, would make it impossible for Olelo to continue to serve communities like mine from within those communities. This bill would be bad for community participation and bad for free speech. It would limit participation and opportunities for some of our neediest places. I ask, as a mother with high hopes for the future of our state, that you get rid of this bill, do away with it, vote against it, and allow us to continue our good work. Mahalo.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols.
Aloha. I have not submitted any written testimony, but I've written it out and I'll read it and then I'll submit it.
Thank you.
I'm Eric Butler. I'm here because I'm against HB 2874. I've lived in Hawaii 31 years. My 3 children are 24, 21, and 18, graduated from Kaimuki High. I'm president of the Kaimuki PTA and director in the Kaimuki Project Grad. I believe you're all here to do the right thing. Computers are a right thing. Taking funds from Olelo, not such a right thing. Kids are smart, kids can learn computers on their own. Yeah, we know that. Olelo is moving to Kaimuki High. I'm the one in Mapuna. I'm also a producer. Kids are smart, they can learn the computers on their own, but need Olelo people to run this level of technology. Try and get the funds from other sources mentioned earlier. Mahalo.
If you're submitting a written testimony, let me know because they're late submittals and we need to make photocopies of them. You might have them.
Okay.
I want to make sure the members know that.
You actually may have a couple from me. I think I sent one in over the email, and then I also delivered one here this morning personally. So, but I'll be brief. My name is Jack Bates. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, committee members.
I have yours.
Oh, hooray! Okay. Well, I'm going to be short, and I'll be a little different from what that says there. 4 years ago, I joined Olelo as their marketing manager after retiring from 23 years with Star Siegel Communications, the last 6 of which I was chairman and CEO. And I don't know what your perceptions are of Olelo, but I know I was about to get a real eye awakening. And the last 4 years have been really impressive to me and impressive to the impact that Olelo's had on our community. I had no idea the amount of involvement this organization has in the community and to the depth of which it contributes and facilitates free speech in our community. I'd like to talk this morning about 2 programs in particular, of which I could go on for hours. I won't. There are several out there, but there's 2 that really have impressed me. And also about a little bit of recognition of Olelo. The first is Youth Exchange, which was talked about a few moments ago. This is a program that's been in existence. It's now going into its ninth year. It is the largest student video competition in the state, and it is statewide, not just Oahu. Last year, there were 580 video submittals entered into that competition. Since its inception 8 years ago, they've given away over 200 cameras, video cameras to the schools, cameras virtually needed. And importantly, this program is on top of the 25% Olelo already provides through its cable access funds, along with other educational programs. Vote Informed campaign that we run every year when elections are held. In fact, I've seen some of you out at our offices, I think, in the past when we've done that. Olelo produces more voter information programming during election year than any single TV station in the state. We're the only station that offers every candidate in this state, or in this county in particular, the opportunity to go before camera, be on the air, and talk to the community about what their program is all about and what they wish to stand for if they were elected. We do forums and we do debates. The difference between us and a commercial TV channel during this campaign, or it will be again this fall, is that we invite every candidate, not just those who are perceived as the leaders. Olelo is a facilitator. Nationally, among several hundred public access stations across the country, it is recognized as a leader, an innovator in this business. Olelo was one of the first in the nation to take its base product, which is a CMC, a community media center, where people can go in, learn how to use the equipment, learn how to speak and address their issues. And they moved it out into the community with 6 offices now around this island, making it accessible to people that many of them have to ride the bus. The number that impressed me the most, I think, is the fact that last year, when people say, oh, you know, what interest is there? There were over 100,000, since its inception, over 100,000 locally produced programs have been prepared and aired on Olelo. That's people in our community. 100,000 programs during that time. I guess my perception when I joined Olelo was that of a lot, maybe some of you. And that was, it was a group of TV stations that I really didn't know much about. I watched it occasionally, but I didn't really realize that it was an organization that's out there grassrooting in the community, really working and training children, training adults, advocating programs that have impact and relevance in this community. I'm all for broadband. My son works for Apple, so I can tell you I better be for broadband anyway. I think what concerns me is Olelo and the neighbor island media, community media operations have been attacked now for years. Olelo's funding has been reduced for at least 4 years with the cap. We can't continue to do that. We're in a negative growth state. If I were in a third world country and I wanted to squelch free speech, what I would find ways to do is to take the money away from it, because we had a bigger and better cause. And I would suggest to you that this bill would be the first step, if allowed to go through as it stands, in crushing community access in this community and our neighbor islands. I would hope that's not the intent, but that will be the effect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bates.
Aloha, Chair Oshiro, members of the committee. My name is Roy Amemiya, President and CEO of Olelo Community Media, PEG access provider for Oahu. I guess I'm here to testify in opposition of Section 2 of the measure before you. Before I get started on my testimony, I would like to thank all the people who turned out in support of PEG access. It's very heartwarming for not just myself, but for the staff. Also want to thank all of you who have made very good use of our facilities. Transparency in our government is something that perhaps not unique to America, but certainly one of our hallmarks, and you're participating in that. The timing of this bill is a bit curious. Last year, House Bill 112 HD1 was passed into law as Act 19. This committee voted unanimously in favor of the bill, as did the full House. Along with setting a procurement procedure for PEG contracts, the Act also required that an independent auditor conduct management and financial audits of each PEG for 3 consecutive years. The audits were required because there were questions about Olelo's use of cable access fees. We did not object to the audits. Our senior management team believed that the comprehensive audit by an independent third party would finally put to rest House members' concerns about Olelo's fiscal practices. The firm Marina & Company LLC was commissioned to conduct the audit and follow U.S. government auditing standards. Audit was comprehensive, reviewed operating policies and procedures, financial, budgets, ratios, practices, management, and compliance with government requirements. And in December of last year, the audit was published, and my team and I were extremely pleased because we believe that the resulting report describes Olelo as a well-managed company that needed additional funding. Report validated Olelo's long contention that the cap on its funding should be removed or lifted. Specifically, Marina concluded that, quote, the use of resources is exceeding the operating funds available. This cannot continue for much longer. Either its spending has to be brought in line with its available resources, or the funding for the organization has to be increased, close quotes. So you can understand why we are bewildered. We agreed to undergo a performance audit. The auditor concluded that we are well managed but underfunded, and we find ourselves back before this committee again on the issue of funding. But I'd like to thank this committee for this opportunity, and hopefully today we can dispel any other questions that you may have. My testimony that I'll be giving is very focused, and it specifically addresses 6 misunderstandings that we hear in the halls here about our company. Misunderstanding number 1. Olelo is prospering financially while other NPOs are struggling. The actual fact, unfortunately, Olelo is not prospering. The cap on its funding has resulted in us not being profitable for a number of years. Between 2004 and 2010, Olelo averaged $235,000 in losses each year. This has severely reduced our operating reserves, which at one time were pretty hefty, but now is less than 6 months of operating costs. Staff count at Olelo, which once stood at 75, is now just 63, which includes 10 part-timers. Like employees across the island, up until this year, ours had not received a merit increase for 4 years. Like others, they are now paying a larger share of their medical family coverage, and several years ago, contributions to their retirement was reduced from 4% to just 1% of their annual salaries. But we are blessed. In spite of our lower earnings, our staff remains dedicated and passionate about their clients and allowing their voices to be heard. I believe a number of you have witnessed personally your interactions with them. Misunderstanding number 2, Olelo has state-of-the-art broadcast quality equipment. This is a myth. Olelo's equipment is very, very old. 2/3 of our fixed asset inventory, and we have like 3,300 pieces of equipment, is fully depreciated, and in many instances no longer supported by the manufacturers. When cameras break down, our engineering staff cannibalizes parts from previous broken down equipment so that they can keep these equipment in working order. The massive transition from analog to digital equipment, including our master control unit, was a result of necessity. Anecdotally, last year a retired general manager for one of the local broadcast stations happened to be touring Olelo, and when he came into our studio control room, his face suddenly got brighter, and he turned to us and he says, "Wow, I haven't seen this kind of equipment in decades. I feel like I'm in a museum." To again quote Marina and Company, the audit, quote, "The transition to digital and HD has been entirely necessary." Misunderstanding 3, Olelo is against the cable industry's transition from analog to digital signals. In fact, we fully support and understand that we need to replace analog with a superior technology. Our objection to moving our channels from the analog tier to the digital tier is a lot more pragmatic. When that happens, 40% of the cable subscribers on Oahu no longer will have access to Olelo. That is why we're asking them to hold off on moving our channels from analog to digital until the broadcast stations like Joe Moore and Jade Moon, who are now on all 3 spectrums, analog, digital, and high def, when they move off of analog, we certainly don't mind being moved off as well. But if you move us off earlier, 40% of Oahu residents don't get to see Olelo. Misunderstanding number 4. Olelo owns a building worth $10 million, and the rent it receives can fund its operations. In fact, yes, Olelo does own its headquarters building in Apunapuna. I don't know if Heather was involved in that decision. She was. Department of, and we do rent out part of the building. We rent some of it out on the 2nd floor to the Department of Education's distance learning. And this is where they can, among other things, create the content for their PEG Access channel. We also have a warehouse in the back. It's leased to a retailer, but they will be moving out at the end of this month. We have, at least for now, an interested tenant on a short-term basis, but there is a possibility that that space will be dark. But together, our rent totals above $600,000. Our budget's about $5.4 million, so it is more than 10% if you include the CAM, the common area maintenance. What people don't realize, however, is that we don't own the land. It's former Damon Estate land that is now owned by LMTC, the successor to HRPT. Our lease rent is $670,000 a year. So even the rent from our tenants and the CAM put together doesn't even cover the cost of the leasehold. The city assesses the building at a little over $10 million, but they say that 60% of that value is with the land. The remaining is with the building. But when you have a building on leasehold land and the fixed ground lease period only goes up to March of 2014, there is no market for buildings like that. There is no financing that's available on buildings like that. It's understanding number 5. Olelo's expansion into the community locations, such as Lelehua, is costly and a waste of money. Actual fact is the expansion into underserved communities is a very low-cost business model and is an example of a win-win partnership with the Department of Education. By locating a media center at a school, our equipment and staff knowledge is shared with students and teachers during the day. In the evening, the center is open to the general community. By having locations around the island, rather than just at our Mapunapuna Studios headquarters, we are able to service many more clients. For that privilege, schools can assess Olelo rent of $100 per month. Now for $100 a month, Olelo receives classroom and studio space, utilities, parking, security, and access to students as well as the community at large. Partnership works so well that most of our schools don't even bill us for that $100. Staffing is an ongoing expense, but the majority of the positions have been a result of transferring positions from others that were previously at Mapunapuna. And as was mentioned earlier, through the years, the overall staff count at Olelo has been reduced. We also expanded to this building, and again, we're fortunate that the legislature is allowing us to provide to be here rent-free. but you can see that it's a lot more convenient, and it increases transparency for you folks to have your programs right here as opposed to having to go out to Mapuna Puna. And I thank Vice Chair Marilyn Lee for her show. And finally, misunderstanding number 6. YouTube and other forms of social media is making Olelo obsolete. Well, interestingly, the reverse is true. In fact, our hours of local programming continues to increase every year, and in 2011 surpassed 5,000 hours. This averages out to more than 13 hours of new programming every single day, 365 days a year. There may be a lot of reasons contributing to this, but one is that our producers now have an easy method of advertising their programs using social media so that they can increase their viewer base very inexpensively. Those are the 6 misunderstandings that I wanted to clear up today. Again, I thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I certainly would like to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Aloha. My name is Pono Ke Aloha. I'll give you kind of a flip side of this scenario that we have going here. What I see the community-based Olelo as a great access that is now in jeopardy of getting its wings cut. First of all, again, I have to remind you guys, there's no treaty of annexation, so everything you guys are doing here is, again, part of genocide, okay? Now, this is my voice, okay? Now, without Olelo and their training, my voice would have been shut down and stilled. I now go out to about over 10,000 people on Facebook. I speak and they listen. I put out videos and they understand what I'm facing. Without Olelo, I would have been voiceless. I now have over close to about 600 videos on YouTube. You put in Pono size, you go and you view what I put out. You understand what you guys are doing is hevel, is wrong. This is my resources that you guys are fucking prostituting, and that's hevel, man. Now, look, it's in the dictionary. Don't look at me like that, guy. No, okay, but here's the thing, okay? Is what I'm trying to say.
In this forum, please.
Well, do I enjoy being slaughtered? My children, I have to look in the eye, and I have to explain to them, they're being shut down. You know how many Hawaiians are in prison? We're the majority that are in prison now, and yet we're the minority that's here in the islands. You do the math, you figure it out. Now don't cut my voice. Without them, I have no voice. Please think about it. Mahalo.
Anyone else here testifying on this? Will you please come forward? Thank you. You may have some young people watching, so let's be respectful.
Of course. Good morning, aloha, chair and members. My name is Madoy Rumpungwarn. I'm not affiliated at all with the Olelo community, but I had an opportunity to work with them a few months ago. I'm here in opposition to House Bill 2874 relating to broadband, which creates a broadband special fund to support public school broadband and laptop initiatives. So you're going to create a fund to support this, you know. So does that mean that there was no other way? That there is no other way that you could find, and you looked in every nook and cranny, and you searched and searched, and you found no way to fund this other than at the public community expense? I find that very, very, very odd. And now you want to freeze appropriations of monies at the lesser of 2011 of the public community expense and the cable user at that. And so do you believe that the kids who will be supposedly benefiting from this bill will respond to it if they were here like, oh, You took money from public community media so that I can use a laptop? Great idea. Do you really believe that they will be happy that you did that? How many kids do you believe that if you told them that the public community association here and behind me, who work so hard to bring these kids out in the light and educate them and make them a part of video production, a part of the new technology that we see before us today, do you believe that they will be okay with this? When do you guys spend time to ask the kids what is good for them? Instead of always saying that we know what's good for you, ask them. They want to know, they want to be educated too. Maybe not all the time, but they still do. But my point is that I don't think the kids will respond to it greatly. And why not in this public community media production, they allow kids to work within this. And I don't think we need any more laptops in schools either. I think these kids are in front of computers as long as it is too much. Yeah. How about we put more money towards Olelo so that they can engage in these experiences that are real, that are tangible, and even magical. Because I got a chance to work with Lynette Cruz, who has a TV production, a program on there called Issues That Matter. Because I'm a member of Occupy Honolulu, and everyone looks at us like we're dirty hippies and that we don't have jobs and that we're just kind of being little anarchists and we don't know anything. But that's just judging about how we look. And I wanted that production to talk about how I feel and how to kind of justify myself and prove myself to the public about where I'm from and where I want to go with this. Another thing I want to point out is Miss Kat Brady. She mentioned something about when a community member questioned the public benefit of democracy. I'm going to go ahead and point out a disconnection here and highlight the fact that even Noam Chomsky has said this in many respects, that this is not a question about where you want to appropriate your funds, about where you ought to, but a question about democracy by limiting us even more from participating in it. Olelo allows us to participate in it. And for you to question democracy in this matter, you're not appropriating, once again, funding, you're appropriating our voice. And that's not good, I don't think. We all want to do the good thing, the right thing. And for me, this brings up an even bigger question. And that is, where is your aloha? This is an aloha place, and I truly believe it is within all of our kuleana to help each other and here and now to grow, progress, and thrive in this beautiful place as we are all ohana, yeah? And mahalo nui loa, and thank you for your time. Oh, it's really long. Are we ready? Okay. RUMPUNGWORN. It's Thai. Madori, M-A-D-O-R-I. Thank you. Oh.
You don't have to testify on House Bill 28774.
Aloha, Chair and members. My name is Janine Suki. I'm here on behalf of Oceanic Time Warner Cable. And Oceanic Time Warner Cable provides a diverse selection of entertainment, information, and communication services to more than 425 Hawaii households, schools, businesses, and employs more than 1,000 highly trained individuals. On behalf of Oceanic, we appreciate the opportunity to express our support for this bill, which, as members have spoken, creates a special fund to support public school broadband laptop initiatives through cable fees, contributions, grants, endowments, or gifts in cash that could be received by the fund. We are supportive of such initiatives such as this legislation, which provides a more equitable distribution of cable fees toward education and government services. Oceanic's subscribers through cable franchise fees provided more than $7.5 million in operating funds and more than $1.1 million in capital funds to Olelo, Akaku, Ho'ike, na Leo combined in 2011. One previous testifier said that that we need to raise this fee more. I will tell you that the federal regulations cap the cable franchise fees at 5%. And according to this fee structure, just in the operating funds alone, we're real close to 5%, probably at 4.5%, 4.8%. If you add the 1.1 million in capital funds, and that doesn't, you're well over 5% at that level. On Oahu alone, Oceanic's customers have provided to Olelo over $96 million in operating and capital funds combined since 1989. This bill doesn't propose to take all of that funding away. All it simply does is it proposes to freeze the level of funding at the 2011 rates. It's pretty similar to what you folks have done with transient accommodation taxes. You freeze the TAT contributions to counties and to HTA at the previous fiscal year rates, and you scoop the rest of the funds for other purposes. So this doesn't take away the level of funding that they currently receive. The additional funding that you would derive from this bill would be perhaps go toward the administration's broadband initiatives to provide laptop computers for Hawaii students. We believe that this is a critical factor to achieving Hawaii's broadband goal, which is adoption. Without usage, it's difficult to grow broadband usage. So funding additional laptops in educational systems, and by the way, computers are still the best way to access the promise of the internet. You can use your iPhone or your iPads or whatever, but computers are still the best way to harness the promise of internet information. By using this funding, extra funding for laptops, this will increase broadband usage in schools and at home where they may not have current usage. There are many other purposes that the committee can consider to make similar use of such funding. One person suggested funding homeless children needs first. One person suggested doing other sorts of things. But my question to you is consider what other states and other areas are doing with public access, education, and government funding. The lion's share of most of this funding is not being invested anymore in just public access alone. Many other areas, including area of similar size like Seattle, is using its PEG funds to upgrade its government internet system through the upgrading of email systems and other sorts of things. So consider balancing other needs that fall under the spectrum of public access, education, and government as you consider passing this bill. For these reasons, we urge your support.
Thank you very much. Anyone else who needs to testify on this bill, please come forward.
I just wanted to check that DBED's testimony was submitted.
Yes.
For or against?
Supports the intent.
We have a written testimony in support of the intent by Richard Lim, the director of the Public Business Development and Tourism. Please come forward.
Aloha members. Christopher Kili'ivai Ho'ikioni, Camarillo. That name is from 1795, before cable was around, before there was a Public Utilities Commission. These are my family's aina, and we have a right to voice what we have to say through the media that is using our aina, that is pouring our aina out for huge profits. Can I see a show of hands here of anybody that wants to cap their salary at last year's rate?
I did that.
We did.
We did it.
took a 5% cut.
You guys took a 5% cut.
Yeah,
Okay. Have you guys considered capping, say, gasoline? Have you guys considered capping gasoline? You guys have considered that. Do you guys want to hear from your constituents? So, if media funding for the community is lowered or capped, how shall you be hearing from your constituents? Through KHON? Through KITV4? The media is very slanted. I mean, just this weekend, or just this last week, you know, we had tractors going throughout Honolulu. Did it show up on any of the news? Only one. And it was so brief. This is not fair. This is not fair that Oceanic, Cox, these other networks that are across the nation are allowed to use public lands and then not put back out. Olelo provides education to students. I have seen kids that have had problems in their homes, in their schools, and have not fit in, and have found Olelo as a voice and a way in order to flourish, in order to show their artistic need. If they need a laptop, they can borrow one from Olelo to edit their show. I haven't heard Oceanic suggest that. They should up the funds so that we can have more laptops to lend to students. You know what? The other thing is, you guys are gonna go give a laptop to a homeless kid, so what? He leaves it at home one day, Bill 54 comes along, the laptop gets taken to the city impound lot. That kid's not gonna have that laptop. These are all contradictions. And it does not make sense that Oceanic's profits can go up and they do not want to share with the public. The public that they are making their profits off of. They're going to put a laptop in each kid's hand so they can go around and sell products to those kids. Sell HBO shows that's owned by Time Warner. Sell music. Sell things to these kids. That's why they want these laptops in these kids' hands. They're not talking about buying the software that needs to be run on these laptops. This does not make any sense. And you know what? If you feel that you guys are public supporters and you support this bill, you should recuse yourself and step down because you're not supporting the public. And just in this room here, I see more people that oppose this than support it. Thank you very much for your time. Aloha.
Anyone else here to testify on this urgent House Bill 2874? Of that? Well, please come forward.
Aloha, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Hanale Aipualani, a resident of Nanakuli, and just for disclosure purposes, I too work at Olelo in an HR capacity. But this morning I come because my community has benefited greatly from the use of technology and advances that Olelo has to offer. And this is a resource that is plentiful, that allows us to share our stories so that all of those orations can be heard by many to come. Now, for the all-intensive purpose of this particular bill, it has great intentions. I think the only problem is the funding mechanism, and when you look at Section 440G, that impacts the franchisees and how the funds will come about. So if you can find some other funding mechanism, right, the state is very capable of doing that, that does not touch PEG fees that come to support not just what we do, but those that are Kaku, Ho'ike, Naleo. I believe that'll be a better way forward because broadband initiatives is important. I'm not necessarily bought into the concept that laptops have to be made available, but that's your kuleana, and I'm just asking that you look for a better way forward. Mahalo for your time.
Thank you very much. Any other person wishing to testify in this measure? Okay, seeing none. Members, have any questions? Representative Maramoto.
Mr. Yabasaki, I think I agree with your testimony in opposition to this measure. Do you think it would adversely affect the state's ability to access federal funds related to broadband and telecommunications that are regulated by the FCC? been making it harder for us to get money?
Well, currently, among our broadband responsibilities, we deal directly with the Federal Communications Commission. They are the regulatory body on the federal level. Most recently, we actually intervened into a specific activity that was going on, and they were trying to redefine the Universal Service Fund in terms of eligibility. Had we not been there to file our concerns and to make them part of the record and to get that recognized, it would have actually down the road made it very difficult for us to get funds. Just so you know, right now, broadband on a federal level is not considered an essential service. However, it's been a pretty steady move over in Washington and on the federal level to gradually push it to that point. When that becomes an essential service, then the mechanisms like the Universal Service Fund could be tapped for broadband deployment.
That might be a better use of, better way to get broadband services. But I still question whether, you know, we could reach in and use it for laptops. You know, the federal government allows your department to collect a fee, right? 5%.
Correct. That's the access fee.
We could, the legislature can lower that fee, right? If we feel that the cable services have too much money.
You can, the 5% that you've heard people refer to is the absolute maximum on the federal level. If you wanted to pick a lower level, yes, you could.
And we could raise it up to 5%.
Right.
Feel that's necessary. Will the federal government allow us to cap it and use it for other purposes?
The funds collected under the 5%, my understanding on the federal side is that it has to be for cable related and PEG related activities.
So
I'm not in
may be illegal.
I think that's an issue that has to be addressed. I'm not an attorney, so I couldn't comment on the legal side, but it's definitely an area that I think should be researched.
In your department, the insurance commissioner, I guess there was a move to use money from insurance companies for use other than for the people who paid into it, for the insurance companies. And the judge agreed with the insurance companies you could not use that money for other reasons. So this might be a similar case, right?
It looks like it could be a similar case.
Because I know there is we passed the bill asking the auditor to look into whether we could use these special funds for other purposes, and I don't think we've received a report back on that. I think this is premature. We shouldn't pass this bill until we get a report and, like you said, do some further research.
I think some research is warranted actually on several levels. I think the point that you bring up is a valid point.
And I don't think there's a nexus between, you know, how we raise the money from cable ratepayers and to use it for other uses, broadband and purchase of laptops.
I think just from the standpoint of, you know, looking beyond the law, just the fact that these fees are collected from cable subscribers right now for a specific purpose. I think if the funds are not expended in that purpose that it was represented as being collected, I think just from a common sense standpoint, that has to be addressed.
Thank you. The title refers to broadband, and I think that limits it to broadband, but not. I think laptops is, you know, another step beyond. That could be a problem. Thank you very much.
Are you finished representing? Thank you. Okay. Then Representative Jimmy, the representative's work.
First, I think I have to make full disclosure. I've been a board member of the 90s for Olelo Public Access. I'm a huge proponent of media education and video documentation and history. Olelo isn't just a village, it's a city, and it's called Hawaii. So I wanted, please clarify the franchise, and I don't know if you're the what to speak to, the difference between the percentage that we get from Oceanic now versus the 5%. Well, how much is the difference? And then,
you're referring to, in other words, what we collect now versus if we increased it to the full 5%?
correct.
I would,
Just a second.
My name is Lorraine Wong. I'm the cable TV staff attorney.
Please sit down and then speak 18 inches away from the mic because we are
Hi. My name is Lorraine Wong. I'm the cable television staff attorney. At the present time, we get about 4.64% of franchise fees from the cable operator. There's a difference in how the annual fees are, the percentage we collect. We get 1% of a sort of basic service fees, as opposed to the PEGs would get 3% of the gross annual revenue. So when you add it together, because they're different revenues that we're calculating the fees, it comes up to 4.64%. So we're under the 5%. And the franchise fees that we assess from the cable operator can be used for whatever the state determines that it wants to use the money for. And at this point, the state has determined that you pay the annual fee, the cost of cable regulation, and for the pay access fees and for public television.
I think the figure you're looking for, the difference, and I'd have to get back to you on the exact figure, but I think it's a little over $1 million.
The extra amount that we're not accessing.
Right.
We'd have to
We'd
verify that amount.
We'd have to verify that amount, but it's not a huge
percentage,
amount. Yeah. The thing is, it's a moving target.
Thank you.
Now Representative Ward.
Thank you, Chair.
And then after Representative Ward, Representative Talcott.
Thank you. Mr. Amemiya. I've often spoken on the floor of the vision that I have that eventually Olelo would become C-SPAN. The question is, initially, how close or far away are you to becoming a C-SPAN, and how much money would you need to be a C-SPAN?
We, in our application that is before the DCCA on our operating contract, we are proposing that the cap be lifted and that we get our full 3%. And at that point in time, we would pursue something like a C-SPAN, purely for government. Right now, our programming is mostly centered around this body and the city council, with the city administration and the state administration doing a little bit of programming. But many of the agencies, state agencies as well as city agencies, do not have access to our services, and that is something that we feel, for the sake of transparency, would be good. One thing about a C-SPAN, though, it dedicates a single channel to government. Currently, by having 4 channels, we're able to televise a number of different proceedings at the same time: House, Senate, City Council. I mean, we can have them all going on simultaneously. Whereas if we had a single channel, you would be contending for that same airspace.
And I should note that we are greatly appreciative of the 4th floor, where there's an Olelo studio. And during elections, you have candidates night. And I wanted to commend Kent Brady, who was here talking about democracy, but I should make a note for everyone in this room and whoever's listening. As a member of the minority, 95% of the federal, state, and community offices are one party. So be mindful we have a long way to go for the democratic realization of the ideals of forefathers. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Falcon.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Could we have DCCA back up, please? Thank you so much. Three-part question. Okay, first, how do we collect the fees, and what do the fees amount to at the end of the day?
If you bear with me here a second. Thank you. First of all, the fees are collected by the cable company. So these are, you see them on your bill as a franchise fee. So they are based on a percentage of the gross. So in other words, the fees, the cable company acts as the collector for these fees. I have figures basically from the January earlier this year, the fees, just to give you an idea of where they go. Akaku had 1,177,000 approximately went to Akaku. Hoike on Kauai 539,000. Naleo just about $1 million. Olelo 4.7 million, and PBS 3.1 million. Those are the franchise fees. In addition to that, there is part of that comes to our office, which is what we used to operate off of. As you know, DCCA is self-funded, so we get approximately between $1.8 and $1.9 million.
And as far as I understand, there's also CIP requests there. So, do you know the dollar amount that we appropriate for a CIP request?
I don't think.
We don't.
Yeah, we don't. We don't get CIP funds.
Okay.
Representative John?
Thank you. Yabasaki, I'm still kind of, these people seem to think that you'll get less PEG access fees. I was wondering what would be the impact of this bill on the amount that these particular public access television will get?
Actually, we played out different scenarios, and one thing that the bill does not seem to address is the fact that Hawaii is following a trend in the rest of the nation where the number of cable subscribers has been dropping steadily. If you cap the PEG, say, at the 2011 rate, and the cable revenues drop.
Well, let's say the cable revenues remain the same.
If they remain the same, let's just say at the 2011 rate, I don't think there'd be a whole lot of money flowing into this fund.
Right, but the amount that they would get wouldn't be that much less, if any. For example, I think Roy testified that he's using $200,000. I'm looking at his ratio. He's getting $4 million out of $7 or $8 million total, right? So I'm thinking that you guys are not even spending all your money that's going into your share. You could cover Roy's losses very easily. And if you can cover Roy's losses, then the rest of the guys are getting way less than Roy. You could easily cover everybody else's.
Well, I should point out that the so-called monies above the cap, we accumulate that, and that is actually designated towards the institutional network. And it's also out of those funds that we've also provided the matching funding for UHB Talk grant.
Yeah, I realize that, but I'm looking at your special fund sheet here, and you guys receive about it, and your testimony, you said about 1.9 million. You guys spent 700,000. Your unencumbered cash balance is almost $3 million. Every year it seems to be going up and up and up. So all these people are saying, hey, we're going to get less PEG money, but you could easily cover those particular
I should point.
I don't understand where everybody's getting excited.
Okay, I should point out that our annual budget is approximately 1.8, and we actually have had to request an increase to 2.1 because of the by statute we were given other requirements, and right now the biggest portion of that increase has to do with Act 19 and the performance and financial audits.
you guys overpaid for that $200,000. But let me ask you this: between 2011 and 2012, it looks like your expenditures went from $800,000 to $2 million. What's the difference?
The 800 to 2 million?
Yeah.
Right now,
One is actual and one is your budget. So what's the difference?
you know, I'm a little curious about the actual figure that you have, because in doing our projections.
759,572.
Okay. In doing our projections right now, you know, as I said, our current budget is set for 1.8, and we're real tight on that one right now. And we've actually made requests to shift monies around to cover that.
Okay, well let's go 1 year back. You only spent $771,010. So what's the difference between 771,907 and the 1.7? What's the $1 million extra?
I'm sorry, but I just came on board, so I'm not real familiar with the previous year's budget. I'd have to get back to you on
You
that.
guys do have unencumbered cash balances upwards of, well, this year you have about 2.9 million, and probably going over 2.5 million every single year. So what are you going to do with those balances?
Part of that balance right now, there is a request that we made through the governor's office, and I believe it's filtered down to the legislature. 2.5 of that we actually are putting towards broadband projects.
Okay, so basically there's kind of enough money to keep everybody going for a kind of long time. I don't know, I'm just looking at the paper, that's all.
You know, looking at the way that we've been funding all these broadband requests and whatnot, I see the broadband requests growing. You know,
But
right.
if freedom of speech is so important, we should allocate money to that.
You know, you've got two competing, you know, interests here, and it's going to be a real difficult decision. You know, our point right now is we're able to fund right now the current broadband work that we're doing. We're also able to fund the PEG side right now.
So we should continue this discussion because we should really get down to the numbers and see.
I actually think a good discussion is very warranted in this situation.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Other questions, members? Chair, do you have any questions? Oh, I'm sorry.
Keep it.
And this question is, subject. In the bill, it says specifically laptops. Is that the right medium, or should we be broadening the type of mechanism or type of instrument that they can use beyond just laptops?
So this is just to provide context for the rest of the committee. My name is Yuka Nagashima. I'm the executive director for HCDC. Director Lim has asked me to step in on his behalf today. DBED is the leading agency for the Hawaii Broadband Initiative for the governor, and DOE will be the department receiving the money eventually. And they do have a one-pager which I can submit to the House Finance Committee, outlining their plan for the laptop program. So I think the committee is wise to question the particular definition of the equipment being used, because you're absolutely right. This happens in other bills as well, that when you define technology, it becomes obsolete very fast. So recommendation from HCDC when we speak about cyber bills and others is that we usually recommend people talk about functionalities of the equipment rather than the name of the equipment and name of the technology. So portable computing equipment, for example, would be a good replacement.
Other questions, members?
You said you had a one-pager for the committee?
Yes.
What is the one pager?
Oh, so we prepared different project under the Hawaii Broadband Initiative have prepared like a one-pager briefing overview, which if this committee hasn't received it yet, it is written by the DOE, and I can make that available to this committee.
Well, I think we should be looking at that document because they have. Let me ask you this question: is it related to the expenditure of these funds in this bill?
Well, it's not related in that I think this bill came after the agreement to prioritize that project under DOE. So that project was born without the knowledge of this bill ever being introduced. So they wouldn't, the one-pager will not discuss any specifics on how the funds will be transferred or anything like that.
Does that one pager describe any of the uses?
It doesn't contain any specifics as to how many laptops to which particular schools. It is meant to be a pilot program for this year, and I think what my understanding of the intent of this particular bill is to be able to fund that program beyond the pilot years.
You can also take a recess right now. Could you get the committee the document in 5 minutes, let's see?
I can forward it. I should have it on my phone.
Let me take a short recess and I'll ask you to take that to the committee.
Okay.
Short recess.